85. The Story of Ohashi no Taro. I've received from you 1 unlined rope, 1 horseload of salt, and 5 shawl of oil. A rope served to protect one from the cold and heat, to hide one's nakedness, and to adorn one's body. The Benison Kin chapter in the 7th volume of the Lotus Sutra says, like a robe to one who is naked, meaning that one who obtains the Lotus Sutra will be as delighted as a naked person who obtains the robe. Among the Buddha's successors was a man named Shanavasa, who was born wearing a robe. This came about because in the previous existence, he has donated a robe to the sake of Buddhism. And so it says in the Lotus Sutra, gentleness and patience are the robe. In the Kulon's mountains, there are no stones, and in the Mount Minobu area, no salt. In a place where there are no stones, stones are more valuable than gems. And in a place where there is no salt, salt is more precious than rice. The gems for the ruler of a nation are his ministers of the left and right. And these ministers of the left and right are called the salt and vinegar of his rule. If we have no miso or salt, it is hard for us to get along from day to day. And if the nation is without minister of the left and right, it will be poorly governed. As for oil, the Nirvana Sutra states, in the wind there is no oil, and in oil there is no wind. Oil is the best medicine for curing illnesses caused by the wind. I do not know how to thank you for the sincerity you have shown in sending these articles. In the end, it must be an indication of the depth of the late Nanjō's faith in the Lotus Sutra. This is what is meant by the statement that a minister proclaims his ruler's sincerity, while a son proclaims his father's sincerity. This late Nanjō is probably delighted. In Shukushi, there was a daimyo called Ohashi no Taro. Having incurred the wrath of the shogun, he was imprisoned in a cell dug into the hillside of Ueno Beach in Kamakura for a period of 12 years. When he met with the humiliation of being arrested and was leaving his domain in Tsukushi, he said to his wife, having taken up bow and arrow to serve my lord, I do not lament the fact that I have incurred his wrath. It is unbearable hard for me to part from you, since we have been so close to each other from the time of our childhood. But I will say no more of that either. I regret, however, that we have had no children, neither a boy nor a girl. Now you tell me that you are pregnant, and I feel very sorry that I cannot be here to see whether the child is a girl or a boy. It also distresses me to think that when the child grows up, it will have no one to call father. I wish there was something I could do about this, but I am powerless. So saying, he took his leave. The days and months passed, and in time his wife was safely delivered of a male child. When the boy was 7 years old, she entrusted him to a temple in the mountains, but the other boys who were his companions in the temple make fun of him because he has no father. He returned to his home and asked his mother to tell him about his father, but she was unable to speak and could do nothing but weep. The boy pressed him, saying, without the sky, the rain does not fall, and without the earth, plants do not grow. Even if I have a mother, without a father, I cannot become an adult. Why do you hide my father's whereabouts from me? Confronted in this manner, his mother replied, I did not speak of the matter because you were too young, but this is what happened. Being copiously, the boy said, did my father leave no mementos behind when he went away? There are these, said his mother, producing a written record of the Ohashi family ancestors and a letter that the father himself had written for the child who was still in his mother's womb. Seeing this, the boy longed more than ever for his father, and unable to do anything but weep, said, what am I to do now? When your father set out from here, his mother replied, he was accompanied by many retainers, but because he has incurred his lord's wrath, they all deserted him and went away. Now there is not even anyone to send me word whether or not he is still alive. At this, the boy flung himself face down and wept harder than ever, and would not stop even when chided. The mother said, "The reason I sent you to the mountain temple was so that you could repay your filial obligation to your father. You must offer flowers before the Buddha, read a scroll of the sutra, and in this way fulfill your duty." The boy accordingly hurried back to the temple and abandoned all thought of returning home. Day and night he read the Lotus Sutra, so that in time he not only became able to read it with ease, but even committed it to memory. When the boy turned 12, he did not enter the priesthood, but binding up his hair, somehow managed to run away from Sukushi and journey to the city of Kamakura. There he went to pay his respect to Hachiman's shrine. After bowing low in reverence, he said, "Great Bodhisattva Hachiman was the 16th ruler of Japan, and his true identity is Shakyamuni Buddha, the Lord of Teachings, who preached the Lotus Sutra in the Pure Land of Eagle Peak. In order to grant the wishes of the people, he has manifested himself as the deity Hachiman, and I pray that he will now grant my wish as well. I wish to know whether my father is alive or dead." At the hour of the dog, 7 to 9 p.m., he began reciting the Lotus Sutra and continued reciting through the hour of the tiger, 3 to 5 a.m. His beautiful childlike voice echoed through the sacred hall of the shrine and struck the hearts of all those who heard it, so that those who have come to pay their respect all forgot to take their leave, but instead gathered around like the crowd at a marketplace. When they looked to see who was reciting, they discovered it was neither a priest nor a woman, but a young boy. Just then, Lady Kyo no Nii arrived to visit the shrine. She had come in secret to avoid the eyes of others, but because the recitation of the sacred scripture was even more beautiful than usual, she remained listening until the end. Then she returned home, but she was so reluctant to depart that she left an attendant behind. When she reported to the shogun what had happened, he had the boy summoned and set him to reciting the Lotus Sutra in the image hall attached to his residence. The following day, the boy was once more ordered to recite the sutra for the shogun. Just then, some people began making a commotion at the western gate of the shogun's palace. When it was asked what was the cause, a harsh voice shouted, "Today the prisoner is to be beheaded." The boy, hearing this, thought to himself, "Alas, I do not suppose that my father is still alive. But when I hear this talk of cutting off someone's head, I cannot help feeling as though it was some personal sorrow of my own," and tears sprang to his eyes. The shogun, observing this and thinking it strange, said, "Come, boy, tell me the truth. Who are you?" The boy thereupon revealed all the events of the past just as they had happened. The greater and lesser lords who were in attendance and the ladies hidden behind their curtains of bamboo all wet their sleeves with tears. The shogun then summoned Kajiwara and said, "Have the prisoner Ohashi no Taro brought here." But Kajiwara replied, "He has just now been led away to Hyōe Beach to have his head cut off. The execution is probably taking place right now." At this, the boy, though in the presence of the shogun, could not help collapsing in tears. "Kajiwara," said the shogun, "go in person as fast as you can, and if the execution have not yet taken place, bring the prisoner back with you." Kajiwara raced off as fast as he could to Hyōe Beach. Even before he reached the spot, he began shouting for the execution to be stayed. He arrived just as the executioner had drawn his sword in preparation to strike. Kajiwara brought Ohashi no Taro still bound with ropes to the palace and seated him in the courtyard. The shogun ordered the prisoner to be handed over to the boy. The boy rushed down into the courtyard and untied the ropes. Ohashi no Taro, not realizing that this was his own son, could not understand why he has been spared. The shogun summoned the boy to his side again and presented him with various gifts. He not only released Ohashi no Taro into the boy's custody, but also restored the family domains. The shogun said, "From time past, I have heard various reports regarding the power of the Lotus Sutra, and on 2 instances, I myself have received proof of that power. The first was when my father was beheaded by the Grand Minister of State and lay priest. My misery was beyond expression. I did not know what God or Buddha to appeal to, but the nun Myoho of Mount Izu taught me to read the Lotus Sutra. When I had read it 1,000 times, the priest Mangaku of Takao brought me the head of my late father and showed it to me. After that, I was able not only to revenge myself on my father's enemy, but to become the military commander of all the warriors in Japan. All of this was due solely to the power of the Lotus Sutra." The second instance is this strange event today in which this boy saved his father. I personally look upon this Ohashi no Taro as a thoroughly despicable fellow. I would have had him beheaded even if it had meant violating an imperial decree. So great was my hatred for him that I kept him shut up in the cell dug into the side of the hill for no less than 12 years. And yet, this strange event has occurred. The power of the Lotus Sutra is marvelous indeed. As a commander of warriors, I have piled up a great many sins. Yet I put my faith in the Lotus Sutra, and so I believe I will be spared punishment. He spoke this word with tears in his eyes. Now when I consider the sincere offerings that you have sent, I think that though the late Nanjō undoubtedly loved you dearly as his son, he probably never imagined that you would in this way, through the Lotus Sutra, discharge your filial duty to him. Even if he was perhaps guilty of some offense, no matter where he may be now, your filial devotion will surely be recognized even by King Yama and the heavenly kings Brahma and Shakra. And how could Shakyamuni Buddha and the Lotus Sutra ever abandon him? Your devotion is no less than that of that young boy who untied his father's bond. I am writing this through my tears. As to an impending Mongol attack, I have not received any word. When I mention this subject, people say that the priest Nichiren rejoices whenever he heard that the Mongol would attack our country. But this is unwarranted. Because I suggested that such a thing would happen, I have been attacked as a foe or an enemy by people everywhere. But since it is expounded in the sutras, the Mongols are sure to come. No matter what I may say, it is beyond my power to prevent it. I was guilty of no fault and wanted simply to save my country. And yet, not only was my advice ignored, but I was struck in the face with the 5th scroll of the Lotus Sutra. Brahma and Shakra witnessed what happened, and great Bodhisattva Hachiman of Kamakura likewise looked on. But now we live in an age when advice is never heeded, and so I have retired to live here among the mountains. Under the circumstances, I feel great pity for you and the others, but there is little I can do to help. Nevertheless, I pray day and night to the Lotus Sutra. Spare no effort in offering up prayers with firm faith. It is not that my resolve to save you is weak. Rather, it depends on the strength of each person's faith. And yet, in the end, I fear that all the persons of high rank in Japan will surely be taken prisoner. How pitiful, how wretched. With my deep respect, Nichiren. The 24th day of the intercalary 3rd month. Reply to Nanjō. Background. Nichiren Daishonin wrote this letter at Minobu in the intercalary 3rd month of the 2nd year of Kenji, 1276, to Nanjō Tokimitsu, who lived in Ueno Village in Suruga Province. Tokimitsu's father, Nanjō Hyōe Shichirō, had died in 1265 when he was 7 years old, and his mother was pregnant with his younger brother, Shichirō Gorō. The death of his father and later of his elder brother forced Tokimitsu to assume the duties of steward of Ueno while still in his teens. He was about 18 years old when he received this letter from the Daishonin. In the 7th month of 1274, immediately after the Daishonin moved to Minobu, Tokimitsu went to visit him there. Inspired by that reunion, Tokimitsu had met the Daishonin with his parents when he was a child. Tokimitsu devoted himself to faith with renewed earnestness. In the 1st month of 1275, Nikkō Shonin visited the grave of the late Nanjō Hyōe Shichirō on the Daishonin's behalf. From that time on, Tokimitsu looked up to Nikkō Shonin and aided him in propagating the Daishonin's teaching. About 30 letters addressed to Nanjō Tokimitsu are extant, no less than 11 written during the 2 years period between the Daishonin's retirement to Minobu and the date of this present letter. At the beginning of this letter, the Daishonin praised the sincerity of Tokimitsu's faith, expressing in his offerings of the unlined robe, salt and oil. Such earnestness, the Daishonin says, ultimately reflects Tokimitsu's father's deep faith in the Lotus Sutra and surely must please the late Nanjō. Next, the Daishonin recounts the tale of Ohashi no Taro and his son. According to this story, Ohashi no Taro, a general in Kyushu and a descendant of the Taira clan, for some reason incurred the wrath of the shogun Minamoto no Yoritomo and was imprisoned in a cell in Kamakura for 12 years. When his son recited the Lotus Sutra out of his ardent desire to save his father, the power of his recitation moved Yoritomo to stay the execution of and pardon his father. With this story, the Daishonin points out that Tokimitsu's sincere attitude in faith is the highest expression of filial devotion and will surely save his late father. In conclusion, the Daishonin addresses the rumors of an impending attack by the Mongols. He emphasized that only firm faith in the Lotus Sutra will serve as protection against this threat, and points out that although he himself earnestly wishes to safeguard his followers, the crucial thing is whether or not they develop their own faith.